Hello friends I made this for. It is Libra season and I'm coming to you today from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you've never seen me before, hi, I'm Lauren Schwind. I'm an astrologer type person, Reiki practitioner, artist, tarot reader. And like I said, it's Libra season. So today's video is about unpacking Libra through the lens of tarot, specifically through the card Justice. Justice is associated with Libra. It is the card for Libra, and the intention with this video is to kind of go over how 3 different decks break down this sign, and how we can kind of look through the lens of tarot as a way of breaking down what are the big themes that we can kind of touch base and tap into when we're doing ritual around maybe the dark moon that is happening at this very moment, and just the Libra themes in general. If you're doing any sort of practice around Libra season and just kind of like really getting into that, or if you're just kind of trying to use tarot as a way of better understanding of astrology, this is for you. So I have 3 different cards from 3 different decks. One is a very classical interpretation of the Justice card, with 2 being a little bit more different. They definitely have the classic ideas for Libra to kind of give us that archetype, but also just different insights with different imagery. And that's what I think is really important and powerful about tarot, is how different artists interpret these cards can really give us different insight into not only these cards, but the astrology that they're associated with. The decks that I'm going to be using today are the classic deck I've been using is the Morgan Greer Tarot, which this is that Justice. The Howell Tarot. Don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sure I'm just an idiot and don't understand how words work. And this is the Justice card from that deck. And lastly, the Cosmic Tarot, which is a great tarot deck for those who are getting into astrology and tarot. I feel like it kind of helps balance out both of the things in there. That's what it looks like. And this is its interpretation for Justice. So we're going to start in that order of looking at these cards and seeing how this breaks down the theme of Libra for Libra season. Of course, the moon is in Libra right now. We're going from a dark moon to a new moon. And that's really powerful for planting seeds, for kind of doing that inner shadow work and really getting things prepped, because we just kind of started Libra season. So we can really just lead ourselves in that road of what is Libra. For some of us who are more earth-based human beings, like myself, fun fact about me, I have 5 planets in Saturn, or Capricorn I mean, and my sun and moon are earth signs. So, you know, for some of us, this like air shit can be a little jarring to things in our chart. Of course, right now we definitely have some things going on in Capricorn, so that helps bring me ease most days. But let's kind of get into enough about myself, about what is Justice and how that relates to Libra. First, let's start with a classic Justice. This is kind of the Justice that you can see in a lot of old school tarot decks. She is holding a sword in this version. Also, please ignore how shitty I paint my nails. Just like, let me live. The sword really being associated with air in classic tarot. We definitely see that in this card. She's holding it upright, as if holding up the sword to be the person who will make sure to exit, like make sure justice is had. She is holding the scales. Of course, we're going to see this theme right here in each card that we kind of go through. And this idea of this is the strength of justice. This is where justice is. It's kind of interesting to look at it in this classic realm as well, because she has the crown. So of course the theme that we're going to see with justice in a lot of decks is this idea of the holiness of justice. Right as Libra season kind of did its little switch, we hear a lot about climate change and climate justice, this also being associated with justice for Indigenous people. A lot of talk around if we did not murder Indigenous people, we might not be where we are right now with this climate crisis. So, of course, there's all this focus on how justice has not been acted out for our planet, for our home. There's a lot of strength in this vision of justice. And actually, if you were to look at justice in connection to the High Priestess, there's a lot of connection to that for me in this deck especially. She sits the same. It's both a feminine image for this deck specifically. So for this, it's this divine feminine, like, righteousness, this focusing on making sure that the justice that is deserved is carried out, like we said, through this sword. And also, as I said, this is a very air. Libra is associated with air. So there is a lot of, working through the mind. We can almost see this gem and her crown as a third eye. So having that purity of sight, we'll see that kind of come through with other cards as well. So one thing I would definitely recommend if you are trying to work on an embodiment practice specifically for your tarot or for your astrology is to, if you have a tarot deck, to take this out, and for Libra season, put it out on your altar to kind of remind you that of this underlying theme, this major theme with this season being, how are we exacting justice in the world that we're in? Next card I want to look at is, I think, an interesting one for Libra. We have this justice, which again, we see the scales. The scales are balanced, but we see another image for Libra, which is kind of this, one side is one color, one side is the other. So this melding of this almost black and white look of two different perspectives with Libra, but also these peacock feathers in the background. So what's important about that is this vanity that can sometimes come around with Libra season. One thing to just keep in mind is an unbalanced Libra works within the vanity of what is perceived justice rather than real justice, and just being aware of, are we just perceiving things a certain way, or are we really holding into account and looking at things through a balanced perspective? In this image as well, we see a dark castle at the bottom. So seeing this hierarchy, almost like I said, this crown versus base chakra, we almost see that in here as well, with a lot of red for the base chakra, making sure our justice is grounded. But this dark castle also kind of alluding to the hierarchy of what is true justice. So how are we connecting with what true justice is? Also, how can we invoke the theme of beautifying? and enjoying the beauty of this season. We're seeing change through this season, of course. This is the initiation of fall. So we are seeing this transition almost kind of here with this very dark castle and these very bright peacock feathers, which also peacock feathers talk about the eyes, the all-seeing eyes of what is truth, can be associated with that as well. So last but not least, and probably one of my favorite images of justice is the Cosmic Tarot, because there is a lot here. There is tons of imagery to unpack. We, of course, have the Libra symbol. The scales are balanced. They are coming out of this rose. So this purity of what is pure justice, and the seeing eyes cutting through what is not truth. We see the crown again, and we see the lights from the castle that are literally shining through her crown. So we see this connection to the divinity once again. And then there is this symbolism for this light and dark, and the yin yang symbol, which of course represents there is not total darkness or total light. It is a balance of these things. So that can be a symbol to really connect to this Libra season, is this idea of light and dark. Literally, we have the moon and the sun. And this can also be a balancing of our divine feminine and divine masculine. So another theme within Libra season is how are we balancing these things to make sure we are really coming into that pure authority, sort of, like we are seeing things as they truly are. We are cutting through the bullshit. It ain't real. It ain't true. So it ain't of service. And how are we making sure that we are seeing? I love that there's a hawk as well. It's kind of a funny looking hawk from this perspective, but how are we making sure? And of course, this harks on to the air themes as well, but how are we making sure that we are seeing with true eyes and keeping things balanced? We also see these symbols for the elements in the scales as well. So making sure we are wearing our truth, we are speaking our truth, we're speaking truth to power. That's a big thing that seems to be coming up with this Libra season, especially. Like I said, we're worried about the climate and making sure the injustices have been rectified. So a big theme that might be coming up for you is, how are you fighting for what's right? How are you fighting for what is true, and how are you speaking your truth? But also, how are we seated in a place where we can be understanding? Because this might not seem very understanding to everybody. If we're just like, this is my truth. How are we sitting in a place of compassion that's saying, I'm weighing out what you're saying, but I know where I'm at. You know, that's a lot of what Libra is about, is, you know, it's beautification, it's love for what's good in the world, and feeling that energy of like, enjoy this, like the shift, the beauty that this is, this change, this contraction from everything is in life to letting it change and fall, and moving from a place of this enjoyment for that beauty, but also being in alignment for focusing on how we can do things that are right for our communities, for communities that need better representation or voices at the table. How are we making sure that everyone is heard, that we are listening, and just having that compassion to see that there are three sides to every story. You know, there is this righteousness that can be in an unbalanced Libra of, I know it's true, but there can also be this, I'm not really sure, I'm just listening here and I'm just taking it in. So making sure that the scales are always balanced, always coming from a place of seeing from both sides. So I hope that helps for anyone that's trying to understand Libra season a little better, or even just tarot through the eyes of astrology, vice versa. These things are really helpful for each other. But anyway, hope that your dark moon is still being amazing and that you are amazing too. Bye.